Good evening, Joe. It's a great privilege indeed. It's a monumentally epic day in broadcasting here at NTV. I have a fantastic panel of contributors to agricultural economics here and literally the entire economic spectrum of our nation. So I have 4 panelists. I'm just going to make sure that I split the panel into 2 at a go. I'm going to have the first segment dealing with an incredible team of 1, an academician and a policy researcher, and the second will be a farmer, a practicing individual in the area of agroeconomics. So let me just make a slight preamble over this particular matter because I'm going to contribute to the area of agricultural sector for the discussion in regards to the 2040 vision. So, of course, one of the critical things we need to know that here at NTV we're making 10 years in broadcasting. And our mission is to make sure that we deliver an exciting and enriching TV experience and positively impact and transform society through information, knowledge, and entertainment. And so this is one of the episodes in this regard to make sure that we inspire you, we educate you, we inform you, and make sure that we empower you and move this economy to a greater paradigm. So, we are expected that for my discussion that we're going to contribute to the building of the National 2040 Vision, projecting a per capita income. Actually, the per capita income projection for the 2040 economy is that each individual will be getting $9,400 US. Let me just break it to you down in the today Forex exchange dynamics. Today, we're having an exchange rate of 3,600. So that means at that time, the projection is that each individual should be earning about 33 million Uganda shillings. Okay, in 2020, we're expected to have half of that received, that you're getting about 16 million per annum. Okay, and so we're asking ourselves, is that possible in this particular economy that we're having? So the Vision 2040 is conceptualized around strengthening the fundamentals of the economy to harness the abundant opportunities around the country. One of the most fundamental opportunities cited for this nation's advancement of the vision, besides oil and gas, tourism, abundant labor force, tourism, which we've been discussing, and so on, is agriculture. So please, just for this moment, join me with my gallant 2 panelists to make sure that we decipher this particular matter of concern about agriculture and its contribution to the 2040 vision of Uganda. Right on my left, I have a great lady who is a researcher. She's called Dr. Susan Kavuma, lecturer at Makerere University in the School of Economics with over 15 years experience in conducting policy-related research in various fields, such as health, education, labor, economics, poverty, and income inequality. She's also a researcher with Advocates Coalition for Development and Environment, ACORD. Dr. Susan, you're welcome.
Thank you, Bolward.
Yes.
Good evening, viewers.
All right, and let me introduce you to my second panelist, who is a farmer. She's called Margaret Lalonyo. She's the CEO of Blessed Organic Release Company Limited, based in the north part of this nation, in Padel. And she is running a SHEA butter company, and she's working with over 6,000 farmers upcountry in Northern Uganda. Madam Margaret Lalonyo, you're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yes. You told me you drove all the way from Padel last night just to make sure that you're part of this economic summit.
It's a privilege.
Wow, that's an honor indeed on our part, and you're a hero for the work that you do. So let's get started. Dr. Susan, yes. Now, projections of the 2040 vision indicate that Uganda will graduate into a lower middle income country by 2017. Unfortunately, that hasn't yet happened. And you're part of the architects of this whole policy, progressing to an upper middle income category by 2032 and attaining its target of $9,500 in 2040. Uganda's vision statement, which is of the 2040 vision, is that we have a transformed Uganda society from a peasant to a modern and prosperous country within 30 years. So, Madam Dr. Susan, in Uganda's agricultural sector able to make the expected contribution toward Uganda's Vision 2040?
Thank you, Bolward. This is
Baldwins. Yes.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Baldwins. This is a question which I'll not give a yes or no. Mm-hmm. However, I would like to put into perspective our expectations of the agriculture sector. I think the agriculture sector has a huge potential to make us realize the targets of Vision 2040. Why do I think so? First, we need to be aware of that the agriculture sector provides us with our foreign exchange. large portion of our foreign exchange is from agricultural products. 80% of our foreign exchange is from the agricultural sector. So we need to boost the agriculture sector. We have known about the story of coffee for decades.
But I don't think the highest foreign exchange earner is agriculture in this country. That's quite different because I actually have a
tourism.
Reflection. Yes, exactly. So
yes, tourism is just coming up, but agriculture has been our main source of revenue for so many years. And we can't neglect the agriculture sector because it has we have a comparative advantage in agriculture. Our country is known for having a huge chunk of arable land. We also have fertile soils. We also have 2 seasons to plant. And so that has given us a leverage over other countries when you look around the region. And that is why over time Uganda has been the food basket for the region. We've been supplying to Kenya maize. We've been supplying all sorts of agricultural products to Southern Sudan. And actually Southern Sudan is our major export destination. And so we have a comparative advantage in agriculture. And that is why...
Doctor, now the challenge is that the South Sudan market is dying, and we're having also a competitive, robust sort of upsurge of other neighboring countries which are producing far much more food than we are, including Kenya, which used to be totally the negative. And in the meantime, it seems Uganda is just declining in the agriculture. So how do we move forward just to know and influence the economic players in this particular field?
I think we need a paradigm shift.
Which one?
By both the policy makers and the population to appreciate that agriculture is still our comparative advantage sector, so that we get involved. Because most of us, you realize that we have idle land that probably we're not using. So we need to take advantage of that arable land that is available and invest.
Like which land in particular? Is there any, because you are a scholar, okay?
Yes.
So out of your research, which particular land are you talking about that is available, that you think has no political combustible problems that will come up by if the government nationalizes it? Is there a land that is there that we can...
I've moved across this country, and wherever I go, whether you go to Luwero, whether you go to a patch, actually I went through a patch and I was seeing vast pieces of land that are unutilized.
But so it's owned by some other people.
So we still have land to do agriculture farming because we have comparative advantage in agriculture. And well, it's good that the tourism sector is coming up, but the tourism sector is quite fragile, very sensitive to the foreign exchange movements, very sensitive to conflicts in the region. I can't ignore the fact that even agriculture has many challenges, but we have comparative advantage to an extent that even a peasant farmer can participate. Although as we progress to Vision 2040, we need to change that and commercialize farming. Because if we are to increase our incomes, we must produce commercially. So that we can satisfy the export market.
Okay, on that thread, just before I transition to Lalonyo. Now, let me make a proposition, which is a clear, familiar narrative about zoning, okay? Yes. You have a specific region within the nation. You say that particularly this area, perhaps let's say the north or the west, concentrates on banana production or coffee production. And then we have clustering, okay? If you're talking about this idle land, it's owned by people. So if you're talking about clustering, you could congregate and aggregate the multiple smallholder farmers and get them together. Is that an applicable and viable option? Because we need to have solutions for how we move forward.
Yes, I think clustering and zoning is a good idea. It's a good idea because it enables us to increase the productivity, because you're sure whatever crop you're growing it with the right soils, because the basis of zoning is really on the soils, on the capability
Doctor,
of soils.
Thank you. I'll get back to you. Now, just let me get to the actual practitioner of farming right here. And I'm going to ask her a very familiar question, and this is about how do you attract the youth into the agroeconomy. So United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs Population Division has actually a population time clock. And apparently, we are over 40 million people in Uganda since the census that was conducted in 2010. I hope I'm not mistaken on that particular date. And so we are 40 million. And the youth percentage, the percentage of the population under 15, is 49.9. Okay, so this is quite a very young population. Now, Margaret, you are dealing with the farming itself. How do you attract young people, especially those under 25, let's say, to be interested in the economic practice of agriculture?
Thank you so much. This is such a privilege for the nation of Uganda, having the greater percentage of the younger generation. And from my experience, the youth are ambitious. Their expectation is very high. They are dreamers. The youth want something that brings results immediately. The youth has different ambition to accomplish within a short time. Some of them want to build their career, some of them want to marry, some of them want to be important in their villages, in their locality, in the nation. Some of them want to make money quickly. All these workers are an advantage, and that makes me make an attempt to say, yes, it is possible for us to achieve that in the Vision 2040. Because the youth has a lot of energy, but there are gaps that needs to be covered by both the policymaker, the academia, the youth themselves, in transforming the mindset of the youth. Because when we looked at agriculture, it's something that we have to nurture and wait for a period of time. The youth is coming from an anti-paradigm shift, that they want result immediately. For example, a youth in my village would sell a piece of land to buy a boda motorcycle.
Yes.
So that he can, something that will enable him to get money quickly.
But you understand the aspect of work smart and also the attractiveness of an economic area, because agriculture sounds and seems in actual practice and experience to be dirty. So how are you going to entice a young person to opt for an agricultural, dirty sort of work environment, or are we going to make sure that we reorganize agriculture so that it's smart, it's attractive, and it is appealing to the young person rather than to go and get a boda, which seems to be a smart work option?
In the minds of the youth, according to my experience, agriculture is not dirty. It's just a long-term process that would enable them, and then they want the assurance that when they grow their crop, there will be the market. And sometimes the youth wants to do anything that would enable them to achieve their dreams, their ambition, and their passion for what they would do. So I am still certain that many youth would still accept the idea of making agriculture their personal development project and agriculture as a business, especially even those who have come from the university. Looking at the fertility of the land in Uganda, the land in Uganda is still organic land that does not need so much fertilizer that would require a youth to get so much money. But there's a challenge that if we put in place together the collaboration with the policymaker and then the academia, together with the community and the youth, this is achievable. One, the youth needs to be assured that whatever they will do, however dirty, simple it is, they will get the market. That assurance has to be there. But also having experience in agricultural project, there are challenges that comes when you have a target of meeting the quantity that is needed, because that's a requirement in the market for agricultural produce: quality, quantity, and consistency of all those two. This required substantial amount of money, especially at the initial start. The youth needs to be assured they can access credit, which is easy for them to service. Today, the percentage that is given to the youth from the bank is not easily accessible for the youth. And then, if we could make a demonstration, the youth want to see, they want to hear, to see, and then they believe. If the academia, together with the community project and the private sector, come together and we make clusters like in community, and we make demonstration plan, incubation, where the youth will see, and then they are mobilized in different groups to create positive competition among them. I assure you from my experience that these youth will achieve this within the shortest period even before 2014.
All right, for purposes of practicality, just in 1 minute,
Yes.
because you're doing such incredible work in the North, just give us a narrative of exactly what you do, just in a minute, because I think it will inspire and give guidance on how we can inspire the interest of young people in this field.
I worked in Northern Uganda with 6,000 farmers. We started with 20 farmers just to work on their mindset. The community that are drawn into dependency, they believe that is their obligation to receive rather than to work. So on that note, we started by campaigning, said stop saying give me, start doing something with what you have. That mindset transformation took us more than 2 years, at least about 2 years. After that, the production of the Sim and SHEA nut tripled. That was just a change of the mindset, which is number one point I wanted to raise. That once we worked on the mindset of the younger generation to see that the potential that is available in agriculture, because we have the land, we have the good climate, we have all the organic practices that is related to the traditional way of, which is cheap in a sense. This would be achievable within a short time. So we worked with the community doing Sim, we grow, we process shea butter, we grow amaranth, we do honey, which is a similar thing to promote pollination and to increase yield.
Okay.
That's,
all right, just on the purpose there, I'm coming back to you just shortly. Let me get to Dr. Susan Kauma here. She might think I've completely forgotten about her. Now, let's just decipher and disambiguate the problem of climate change. The cattle corridor of Uganda is stretching from the northeast to the southwest, is extremely now becoming, it has become a fragile ecosystem, and depends, of course, on rainwater, which is scanty, and frequent droughts have resulted in lowering of the water table, leading to famine and drying of boreholes. So, Dr. Susan, agriculture is at the front line of the menacing effects of this problem, yeah? How do we combat the already apparent devastating effects of climate change and perhaps reverse the whole calamitous problem?
Thank you. For us to reverse the current the impacts of the current climate change, we need to preserve our environment. We need to preserve our environment. You know, much as development depends on the environment, we need to harness the environment sustainably. So we must make sure that we preserve biodiversity, the flora and fauna, the water bodies, the wetlands, the hills, the mountains, because every component of the environment is very important and ideally will affect the rain that we want to receive. So we must preserve our trees. You know, most of our trees have been cut down, and the forest coverage now is so limited, it has been reduced to about 14%. So we need to change that. We need now to begin to grow these trees. We need to preserve the wetlands. We need to preserve the hills, the mountains. So we need to ensure that much as we have economic activities, they should be, we should promote them in a way that they're able to preserve the environment that we have. Because we need this environment tomorrow in order to generate the development that we are looking for. So if we don't preserve the environment, then we are likely to get these effects more and more. Even as we do the farming, we need to have good farming practices that are able to preserve the soil so that we can use it tomorrow. Our farming practices, you know, the methods that we use should be able to enable us to preserve the soil that we are using. And more to that, we also need to be mindful of our waste disposal. We are so careless in the way we dispose of our waste. And sometimes we are really let down and disappointed by factories that tend to dispose of waste in very important water bodies that we use for other consumption. And that also is likely to affect the environment if they dispose of carelessly. So policy makers and government should help us in this to ensure that most of these factories use environmentally friendly technologies. And actually they should be able to treat their waste before they dispose it, because that has been a major concern and major cause of the deterioration of the environment that we see.
Okay, Dr. Susan, just a pause on that because of the need to transition. Lalonyo, I will come back to you. I needed to have a discussion on GMOs Let me just have a break so that we'll get back on said hereafter. Thank you, our great audience out there and viewers, for keeping us #1. This is NTV at 10. I'm Karagara Baldwins. Please, let's transition to the next session. Thank you.